Yes, Cindy.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, I'm glad you're on. We needed your flag. We're gonna start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we could have a moment of silence for men and women in uniform and those fighting the pandemic. Thank you. Number 2 on the agenda this evening is a conflict of interest disclosure. Please remember how that may impact you or may not impact you relative to your vote. First up is adjustments to the agenda. Presentation for the annual audit. I assume it's Levi Robinson doing the presentation. You'd assume correctly. Okay. Board members, if you could unmute, please, so that you're able to ask him questions. Levi, I'm Steve Filbert, the chairman. With us this evening is Cindy Egan, Ethan Schaefer, and I know Wentz is David Haley, so he must be in Florida. Zooming in. Joe Roach is our town manager. If you could take off and we'll get going here.
All right, so I just barely got in the door here, but I'll try to make this. Ron loves to be quick and dirty about these kind of presentations for the most part, so I'll try to emulate that a little bit. The few things that jump out at me when I look at these financial statements is your overall fund balance. You went up about $230,000 in your general fund, so that's a good thing for sure. You got an increase too in your capital projects overall. And that's on statement E of the financials if you have anything in front of you for the financial statements themselves. Couple things to note is on that same statement, you'll see the Lakeside Park project is just carrying a deficit fund balance, small one, but that's something that should be cleared up going forward. So basically what happens with that is that the general fund is gonna absorb that. So it's gonna drop by that 10,000. The airport improvement fund right next to that, similar situation there with the deficit fund balance. However, Rebecca had mentioned that there are some funds potentially coming back for some of that, although I know there is a portion of that is not coming back. So based on the project expenses of how they're broken down between the federal portion and your portion. So some part of that eventually will need to be absorbed by the general fund as well. So I'm sure we'll have more clarification on how much exactly next year, at the end of next year. But it's, it is kind of what it is at that point. But you're still pretty healthy in the fund balance area comparatively. So let's see what else I can go over quickly. Do you want me to touch on any of the management letter things? I'm not sure if that's, it's generally some people want them talked about, sometimes they don't. I can go either way, basically.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Cindy.
No, I was just going to ask him to, go ahead and comment on the management letter.
Okay. So they're pretty minor things overall. One, especially with COVID, we just didn't have, and maybe they do exist. The date on the bank reconciliations when they were prepared. So for us, we're looking to see that they were prepared basically within 30 days of the statement end date. But I can't tell that if I don't have a date on there of when it was actually prepared and or reviewed. So that's, it's a pretty minor thing to just add that, and we've had that conversation as well. Voided checks, some old outstanding checks, stale dated checks on there. So that's just something to go through the process to get those cleared up and either sent to unclaimed property or reissued, depending on what the situation is with the individual check itself. Again, not a huge deal. It's just something to kind of clean up going forward. Payroll, I know that was something that Joe had mentioned as well, where the personnel files weren't reflecting the increased pay rates. That's an easy fix too. So just kind of a mention of that there. Let's see. So we've got reconciling taxes receivable and some payroll liabilities. They just didn't tie out exactly, and that's, we always recommend basically any general ledger accounts like that, they're reconciled on a monthly basis, but time doesn't always allow for that. And we understand that, especially in this year where, things have been crazy. But certainly something and there weren't big, issues at all with them, as far as I can remember, especially not in taxes receivable. But definitely it's always a best practice to reconcile those things on a monthly basis, if at all possible, or even, a more extended time period, maybe quarterly, something like that is always what we recommend. So looks like the other comment we had was about net posting. And I think in this case, it was about a grant that was basically an in and out. You were a pass through for it. And it was basically just, if you look at it, it showed a zero at the end of the day. So what that means basically is that we didn't have I think it was like $80,000 or something like that. So realistically, we should be showing the 80,000 as coming in and then going out as separate transactions rather than netted together. So we don't see something like that, then it's kind of the amounts we report then are not going to capture that 80,000, even if it is a pass through. So it's really just putting that, in a separate fund to show those kind of pass through things. Like I said, that's all we've got really. They're pretty minor things to improve upon, and not a big deal. So I think with that, I'd ask if there were any questions or anything you want me to go into maybe further detail on. That's just a very high overview, or brief overview rather.
We'll start with David. Do you have any questions, David?
No, I guess not.
Ethan?
Nope.
Cindy?
Yeah, just a couple. Okay, I'm on. So on page 10 at the top, when it identifies budgetary highlights, the general fund actual revenues exceeded budget amounts by 224,936, and then the general fund actual expenditures were under budget by 410,120, bringing a total of just over $634,000. So what? How is that reflected? Is that direct revenue for this current fiscal year?
So you said page 10. So
Yeah,
I'm not
actually, I've got the draft in front of me. Let me just see if it matches up with your final.
It doesn't, Cindy. But Levi, you must know where she's talking about.
Yeah, if you gave me like a statement or something like that where I can find it.
Yeah. It's right. Yeah, it's right after table 3, Levi.
Yep.
And after table 3, there's
budgetary highlights.
Budgetary
Gotcha.
highlights.
Okay. So basically so as you kind of read through them, it should talk to the back, and I'd have to write these amounts down so I can show you where that comes from. Now this might be rough for me to try and find it immediately, but I promise you I could. Let's see if I can find it quickly.
Can I just add, just so you guys can see it, you do have the final budget in your emails. It was emailed out first thing this morning.
So this should talk to our back schedules, because basically what happens at the front here is you have that highest overview, and then it kind of gets down and drills down all the way to the details. So this should talk to another schedule here. It's just a matter of me finding it. So is that something that you want me to? I just don't want to, sit here and have you all in silence.
I guess. Yeah, I guess. I had trouble with the flow of this report. I guess I just wanted to this is a common question, we would get at, when we used to hold public town meetings is, all right, well, what happens to the money that is, that wasn't spent, or if we had increased revenue, how is that carried forward into this current year? Or perhaps that isn't even something you address in this.
Well,
audit.
so basically it's all going to be captured in your fund balance at the end of the day. If you have that excess revenue, and then obviously in turn, you're going to use that to potentially reduce taxes or keep it, to basically pad yourself, with the operating budget, depending on how much your operating budget. And I think we recommend, like 3 months potentially. So it's all there in that undesignated fund balance or the assigned portion that you have for specific projects. So that's what happens to it. It's not,
Okay, I kind
it
of figured that.
doesn't go anywhere besides there. And then you just use it to either reduce taxes or for those assigned purposes, or just to make sure that, in case of we have kind of a pandemic, potential issues like that. Does that necessarily answer your question, or you want me to?
It does.
Okay.
Any other questions, Cindy?
I'm trying to find it. I put my notes in the draft. I worked all day, so I haven't looked at the final one. Haven't had time to yet. So I'm just if Shelley's got a question and she wants to interject, or Ethan, that's fine. Joe.
And I'm happy to answer, any questions that you have, especially it's just hard to answer some of them in detail sometimes, in this kind of forum basically. But, if you have any of those additional questions, I can absolutely look into those in further detail and get you answers for 100% on those.
Joe, do you have any points you need to bring up here?
I think Levi's covered the items that I wanted to discuss with you. The grant that he was referring to earlier on, the in and out, was the snow wheel grant, I believe. Is that correct, Rebecca? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
So Cindy, your answer is on Schedule 1. It's number page in the final 51. So you can see the overall actual amounts, and then the variance basically talk to that note on that page. You'll see the 224,936 in your revenues, and then you'll see the 410,120 in the expenses.
Okay. Thank you.
Cindy, anything else?
I thought I had a notation here regarding, there was a comment made on, or a paragraph that referred to investments, and that the allowable, for the allowable investments that a municipality can participate in is, and I think your comment was that the town didn't have money invested except for CDs. Is that common? I mean, or do you typically see, I mean, granted, we're a small town, but do you typically note revenue from investments in other towns?
So I think the note that you're referencing is note 1. So it basically covers, all your, or sorry, it's note 2, deposits and investments. So it basically just covers all of your cash. So it is a standard note that you'll see in every single one of our financial statements.
Okay.
Ethan, anything come to mind?
No, Steve, I'm good.
Okay, back to you, David.
All set, I guess.
Okay, if you have no other questions, thank you. Thank you, Levi. Levi, I want you to take note to the comments Cindy made, because I concur. This is different format than we've seen in the past. and you accounting individuals have a clear mind for all of this. Sometimes it's a little convoluted. If you could just think about that in the future in terms of ease of understanding and going from one table to the next, it's difficult at times.
Yeah, I understand that. The only thing I can say about that is, so I don't actually produce the what this final product you see. So we hand that off to quality control, and they're basically bound by, you know, a ton of different regulations of GASBs and everything of how this thing looks, and they're ever changing. I mean, they add them year to year, and that basically forces their hands on how, you know, these things kind of work together. So there's some things we can do to change that, certainly. But there are definitely are limitations on what we can do, you know, as far as that. So, you know, I that's why I'm happy to, you know, whatever questions you have and try to explain it the best I can, you know, whether it's here or whether it's in the future. So.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Next up, formalized warrant articles, undesignated fund balance, mill worksheet. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that we've worked on since your last meeting was an exploration of the unassigned fund balance, which came from the audit. By the way, I believe that's on page 16, towards the bottom. It's 1,770,596. And that is the starting point for our summary for unassigned fund balance. Rebecca did put pen to paper on this so that I wouldn't lose my train of thought here. But basically, the fund balance policy requires a minimum, or suggests a minimum of 2 months, and she's given us that number, and that's based on, you know, our budget that we've built or proposing for this year, the 1,495,26. As you heard, auditors, you know, can sometimes suggest 3 months. That's pretty, you know, commonplace, you know, but our policy says 2 months. So it basically, that we are saying that there's 250,000 that we suggest you could use for the purposes of offsetting property taxes. Now, there's a $275,000 number in the memo from the finance office. Remember that there's 25,000 in one of the warrant articles that you talked about along the way that would be for contingency. So in a nutshell, that's a fund balance summary, or unassigned fund balance summary. Rebecca, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
Thank you.
Questions? Ethan?
No, Steve.
David?
All set.
Shelley, welcome.
All set.
Okay, I said welcome, Shelley.
Hey, thanks. Sorry.
Cindy, anything?
No, no, I think it's great seeing the extra 250,000 added to revenue. So thanks for looking into it.
Thank you all. Next up is Airport Reserve. Joe, back in your court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick follow-up on the previous item. One of the things that you'll take up when you get to the review of the warrant, you'll want to adjust Article RV1 to reflect the use of fund balance. But we'll get to that when the time comes. I just wanted to point that out. So Airport Reserve, there's also memorandum in here related to airport funds. There are 2 parts to it. The first one I want to let everybody know, and there's a couple of emails that back this up. The change orders involved or associated with the large airport project, there are 5 of them. In a nutshell, those they don't qualify for reimbursement under that project. Now, they do qualify for reimbursement from the FAA at 95% using non-entitlement funds. And we're going to work with the FAA and the DOT going forward to work with, to get reimbursed for those. So that's the first item I wanted to bring up. I didn't want that to be a surprise to anybody. And we can give, if the board would like a more detailed report on this, I certainly can provide that at a later date. So that's part one of it. Part two, the question obviously would be, how does this affect the program that we discussed going through the budget process of parsing out reserve funds? It shouldn't affect it, as you've got it written in your memorandum there. So the total, I think, was 175,000 that we were going to parse out to the various reserves. And we looked at the portion of town code that does allow, because those funds were there, placed in there by other sources. I believe it's logical that the board could parse those out by a vote of the selectmen. So those are a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. Number one, the change order item. And then number two, the fact that that should not have a negative bearing on our plan to use those funds, reserve funds from the airport, for other reserves going forward.
Questions? David?
No, I guess not.
Ethan?
No, I'm just happy that we can move that money around.
Shelley?
So we don't have to move the money can just sit there. Is that what you're saying? To use any other time?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, I believe the answer to that is yes. It can be in that account until you're ready to move it around.
So you don't think it should be like in a different account, or?
Which account are you talking about, Shelley? Moving it to the capital reserve?
Yeah, something so possibly that we could move, and we don't have to worry about someone saying, well, you took money out of the airport reserve for this or that. And I know we say it, but the understanding to most of everybody in the public is that the reserve account is for funds, and the only way to take it out is to take it out by vote. Is that correct?
The only way that the town can spend reserve funds is through the vote of a vote of the select board. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so it's the select board, it's not the town.
Shelley, you meant the town or the select board?
I meant the town.
Yeah, no, that money is discretionary to the Board of Selectmen, is my understanding.
Yeah, because the differentiation is, Mr. Chairman, that these funds were not appropriated by town meeting in the first place. They were generated as revenue placed in this account through any other, or by other sources, is what's written in town code. So because it wasn't stipulated by town meeting, where they needed to go, they live in the capital reserve account, which is broken into several other sub accounts. Airport being one of them, fire, all the other accounts or sub accounts of the capital reserve account.
So to reiterate, what you're saying, Joe, is that those funds can be dispersed, as it says in this memorandum, but they don't need to move out of the airport reserve account until we make a decision on where we're going to disperse them, correct?
That is correct.
That answer your question, Shelley?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Cindy, anything?
Yeah, just a question from regarding Barry Hammer's email. He's got that chart there that shows, so the change orders, I'm not sure if I'm reading or interpreting this right. So basically our shortfall with this grant is $746,066.63. Is that a correct interpretation?
That is correct. That amount, Mr. Chair, is a number that has not been reimbursed as part of a large project. However, over the course of the next few years is eligible to be reimbursed under non-entitlement funds. It becomes, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's worth mentioning at this point, just to get it out on the table, that the non-entitlement funds are the ones that we recently loaned to the town of Pittsfield.
That's what I
So
thought.
those won't come back. Now, obviously, we didn't know that when we did it. But these funds have been paid. Rebecca, you can chime in on that, but this is paid. And we will be reimbursed at the rate that's in the next email in your binder over the next few years through the FAA. Is that correct, Rebecca?
That's correct. And Pittsfield they'll repay us in 2024.
And so to which account will this money be reimbursed to the general fund?
So
Is
it's
that-
in fund where the AIP is set up, the airport improvement projects is set up. So when you look at, Levi explained the fund balance and what the total general fund balance was, and then what you subtracted from it. So it's kind of like with the AIP project from Fund 2. So right now we were in the negative for the airport project, $300 and something thousand. We are going to get a reimbursement, hopefully within the next few weeks. I'm not sure of how much that is. And our final invoice was, when I say only, it was $292,558, and that was the final invoice that was owed to Sargent.
So reimbursed. Okay, all right, now I'm really confused. So if the funds for this project have been exhausted and we have an overage of 746,000, then who's reimbursing us for what?
The federal
And
government is reimbursing us. And
sound just got kicked out.
And to clarify, it
So-
will be fund balance, but it's not Fund 1 fund balance like you're thinking. It's going to be the fund balance in Fund 2 that you'll see that reflected.
I guess it'd be good to see that in black and white. So the other, I guess the other question I have, so that answers that piece. So basically, if looking down a little lower in Barry Hammer's email, it says that the grant, due to the limitation of the supplemental funding grants, this grant can no longer be amended as the specified date for amending the grant has passed. So how did we miss the deadline for amending the grant, I guess, is what I'm asking.
That's a good question, Mr. Chair. I can get an answer for that for the next meeting.
So does this then affect the RB1 article? Would we have had these additional funds to put forth for revenue that we wouldn't have to raise through taxation if the grant had been amended and we would have received 100% funding?
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that one. I still think that, Rebecca, can you clarify this? But there's still money coming to the town of Rangeley for this process, correct?
That is correct. I mean, now because that deadline is passed, I mean, it will be that 5, 5, and 90. But we still have money coming in that is 100%, the 100% funding. And we'll have the rest of it come in. I think it's, Joe, correct me, I think it's over the next 3 years and we'll have the rest of it back through the non-entitlement funds. In regards to the reserve, I thought Joe had explained that, but no, that is not affecting the reserve account whatsoever. The reserves are in Fund 3. This is a Fund 2.
I didn't ask about reserves.
Oh, you said does it affect the reserve?
No,
doesn't.
RV1, the RV1 article I asked.
Oh, no, it doesn't affect that.
So yeah, I'd like to, Joe, if you could, get that information on how the date, what was the date for amending the grant and how that deadline was missed, where we now have to wait to be reimbursed for $746,000. Or I guess, yeah, minus 105 because of what we already have in our AIP account with the FAA.
I will look into that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? David, go ahead.
Yeah, so the 700,000, was that a change order? I mean, it sounds like it was a 700,000 that wasn't covered by the original contract, I guess.
Rebecca, Joe, anybody?
Yes, those were change orders. That was the total amount of 5 different change orders.
So 700,000?
Correct.
Holy cow.
Yeah, the understanding is, as I understand it, was that we thought we were going to be reimbursed for these at 100%. That was the impression the town was under. As it turned out, that's not the case.
But they're going to be over time, I guess. The government's paying it over time, sounds like.
They will over a period of years, but under this original project, the deadline expired before this was picked up.
Huh, okay. Just a pretty big change order, that's all. Too late now. Had to be done, I guess.
Any other questions? Shelley, did you have your hand? I saw your hand.
Nope.
Okay. Ethan, anything else?
No, I'll wait to hear Joe's answer to Cindy's question next meeting when it's available.
No, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Cindy, anything else?
No, all set, Steve. Thank you.
So I'm going to just share with you earlier that we had a conversation, Cindy and I, earlier today, and I attended most of the construction meetings along with Keith when he could be there, and Rebecca when he could be there, and John Madigan when he could be there. And it was assured to us, and I think that those that remember those meetings, that these change orders were imperative due to things that they saw differently as things were building, due to compaction, so on and so forth. And it was described to us by the engineering firm that we would be reimbursed. These things happen all the time. Fair assessment, Rebecca?
Yeah, the grant that we got was the first of this kind of grant. And when we went through these change orders, some of them were absolutely they were discussed with the FAA. They were signed off by our engineering firm, Sargent, and the town manager. And we were told that because of the, 10-15% that you can go over on the airport projects, it would be 100% covered. And that's how you work with all the other projects. But because of this, that didn't happen that way, because it's just the way the grant was set up.
So to clarify for David a little bit, we also felt during these meetings that this was a lot of money, but the assurances were there, not only from the engineering, but representatives from the FAA were consulted. Oh yeah, you have a contingency of 15%, don't worry about it, this is fine. So we didn't give it a whole lot of concern at the time. This is as much of a surprise to us. I can't say that I'm happy about it. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it in any way, but here we are. All right, no more clarifying points. We'll move on to article to accept donation of
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, who's that?
I have my hand up. I have a question. Chris Farmer.
See, I can't see Chris, I'm sorry.
It's okay, Steve. I didn't know you couldn't.
Can't hear you that well either, Chris.
Okay.
All right, before you start, Chris, hang on for 1 second. If there's anybody else out there, I am seeing 369 people on my screen. So chime in. I will wait a period of time. Go ahead, Chris.
So what I understand change orders happen all the time. I'm just probably just a little late to the game. I'm trying to understand, was there a deadline missed? Is that why we can't get reimbursed now? It's over time. Can someone clarify that?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, there was a deadline missed to
Okay,
amend, to amend the original grant.
Okay, who's in charge of that? Is that Daryl?
No.
Manages most of our grants. I guess I'd like to understand who was in charge, what happened, and why it was missed, so that we can avoid it again, and those pieces, because that's a lot, you know. In most people's world, that's a good chunk of change. I don't have a problem with the change orders that happen for these projects like this, but my concern is missing deadlines and having a structure in place to protect against those. In the legal world, you miss a deadline, you lose a case. In the financial world, you miss a deadline, it costs you real money. And, you know, to me, that's more of the concern to me is that than the nature of the change order. So I think that's really important that we figure that out. I'm not looking to blame people or anything, but I'm looking to solve it so we don't have this again. This isn't the last project we're going to do that's going to be grant money.
Can I clarify that?
Sure.
Who's that?
I just wanted to clarify, and the engineering firm is in charge of all the paperwork. They present it to the town, they present it to the contractor, the state if they're involved, and the FAA. So when we had these change orders, the engineering firm presented them to us. We reviewed them, we made the necessary contacts, and then they were responsible for the submission of it.
Okay, so how much have we held back from the engineering firm on that project to make sure we're going to get reimbursed at $750,000?
They were paid 100% before we found out. But I spoke to Joe this morning, and he sounds
So
like he will.
are we filing? So what's the name of the engineering firm?
Du Bois and King.
Okay, are we using them for anything else right now?
No, we are not.
Okay, so what's our recourse? I guess my concern is $750,000 out in the wind here. The firm that's responsible for it hasn't done anything on it. They missed it, is what you're telling me. If I understand, Rebecca, they were in charge of making all deadlines. They missed it. We're $750,000 we're waiting long-term for versus short-term. In my opinion, they should advance those funds and they should be the ones that wait for it, not us. Otherwise, I think that sets us up for a problem down the road. So, I mean, to me, that's a real concern. And, you know, hopefully, Joe, you can address that. But if they were responsible for that, they missed the deadline. We have a contract that says they're responsible for all pieces with the grant and that, then they're culpable for missing this error. And the town of Rangeley should not be the ones that are caught holding the bag, so to speak. So I'd be curious to see what the update is on that for the next meeting, because that's a big oops, in my opinion. And I hope we hold firm on this from I think a strong letter should be coming from the selectmen on this to say, what's your plan to cover this? Because this is a good chunk of change to have out in the wind.
We'll start with you, David.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Chris. They find out what's going on there. Yep.
Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, the things Chris is saying they make sense. I I look forward to seeing what Joe has to say the next meeting, which is where we were headed. Of course, Chris added some points to give it more to think about. But yeah, hopefully we can get some kind of answer for next meeting, or at least some place to move forward.
Cindy? Cindy, you're on mute.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. So in looking at this chart in Barry Hammer's email, it looks like the FAA is going to allow 90% of entitlement funds in the future to be reimbursed to the town. So are we on the hook for 5% of $746,000 and change?
I don't think so. Go ahead, Joe.
I believe the answer actually, Mr. Chairman, is yes.
Wasn't the conversation between the FAA and you saying that we would be reimbursed totally?
Not totally. The last invoice was something that they said they were going to pursue reimbursement on. That was the last invoice that we paid to Sergeant.
So that looks like around 37,000 would be Rangeley's responsibility to pay.
Would it make sense to have a conversation with Senator Collins' office or somebody about that? Because that seems different than what was originally set. And she did a great job with getting us 100% funding along with the airport team. So maybe that's something that could get clarified through her office, rather than us being out $37,000 because of a missed deadline by an engineering firm. If not, then I think we got a cause of action
Okay,
to look at.
let's do this, everyone. Let's get some more information put together. We'll schedule it. We'll structure a timeline. We'll get answers to what those numbers actually mean to the town of Rangeley. Write a letter to Du Bois King, see whether or not there's something that can be done there. And then we'll go the political route to Washington. How does that sound?
Good idea.
My only point, Steve, is I think our letter shouldn't be to Du Bois King that what could be done. I think it should be, we are expecting you to resolve this per the contract.
Yep.
That understanding. I'd pull out the contract and look at it and say, our understanding was you're managing the whole thing. We're now stuck with 750 short. We're told the reimbursement may be different, blah, 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 blah. What's your course of action to resolve this matter, because it's different than what we agreed upon.
Understood, Chris. Notes. You're spot on. I'm seeing cat feet, and I'm assuming that's Shelley. Do you have any comments?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. I don't want to miss anybody. Oh, there you go.
Steve?
Shelley, picking on you. I can only respond to what I see. I like cats, so
Mark had his.
I like cats, and they're I have one on either side of my mantle at home. You said Mr. Borgott has his hand up. I can't see that. Joe, you're going to have to help me with this.
Hand up.
Yeah, he does. He does, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, Steve. I would like to discuss this money of the sale of materials from Chick Hill and it being in the airport reserve in more detail, but I'm willing to wait till the next meeting. If you'd allow that to happen so I don't drag this one out any longer, then it's going to be for you folks.
Yep. Material sales. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else out there that you can, each time anybody that I can't see needs to speak before I move on to the next topic, please say Mr. Chair, and I'll stop. We'll find you. Is there anybody else? Okay, next topic is the article to accept donations of cemetery plots B23. Joe, could you just fill us in on the details?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So a nice letter was written to the town. I think it's actually in your packet from someone that had purchased 6 plots and eventually decided that they weren't going to use them. They already owned them, wanted to know what the process was to donate them to the town. We do have an opinion from, I believe it's Richard Llewellyn, yeah, at MMA. So the answer is for the town to accept these because they're real estate, it would need town meeting approval. And there's a suggested article for you to consider for putting onto the warrant. So that's listed there, and that's something you will have the opportunity to interject when you get through going through your warrant.
Joe, is it not something we're going to be reading through tonight?
If the board would like to have this acted upon in June, on June 8th, tonight would be your deadline to incorporate this into the referendum warrant.
All right. What's the decision of the board? Add Article B23? Shelley?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yeah, I think so. It's pretty straightforward, Steve.
Absolutely. Ethan?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Okay, considered that a vote. We're good, all ayes? Yep.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Next, RSU budget, pardon me, RSU 78 budget worksheets. For your information, you will note the school budget has gone up. Certainly not surprising given these times. I can't answer any questions from the RSU budget worksheet. We do have a member of the school board zooming in with us. If you have any burning desire to touch on some highlights, if not, we'll move on. Okay, I didn't hear anybody, so we will move to the next one. We need to motion to vote and approve individual articles with the budget committee. Who do we have on tonight with the budget committee?
I don't see anybody.
Okay,
Did they know they had to be here?
Yes, they were notified.
was that you, Shelley?
Yep.
Yeah. There's a time delay between northern Maine and the very southern part of the United States. Joe gets it a little bit, David gets a little bit quicker up there in Naples than I do here.
Just rub it in, Mr. Chairman.
See, I'm not sending you pictures of my feet in the sand.
No, thank you.
Oh.
Yes, you can thank me. That would be awful. All right, we have warrant articles to go over. I guess the first question I have is everybody comfortable with what's presented, or would you prefer that I read each and every one of them to you this evening?
I am comfortable.
I am as well.
I'm comfortable.
David?
I'm all set. I've seen him, I think. Yep.
Okay, for the record, please, Tracy, pay attention to me here. Everybody has said they're comfortable what's presented. All right? I need a motion to accept as presented.
Motion to accept as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I know Joe's talking about this, but Ethan and Cindy. David, how do you vote?
I just missed that comment.
No, Joe, I said Joe wanted me to read them all.
Oh.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Joe.
There are a few that you'll need to do take some action with tonight. One of them is the RV1, I believe. If you want to attach 250,000 to that, you'll have to vote to do that tonight. Yeah, you already voted to put in B23, so that's taken care of. Tracy, chime in if you can think of anything else I'm not thinking of here.
So Joe, do you want us to to vote on each type of article as a group. That way, I just want to make sure we're doing what you feel is right. The RV1 article is a standalone, so I just didn't know if you wanted us to approach this section wise, or just collectively, minus the revenue budget article.
Is it, Joe, is RV1 the only item that we need to take action on? Since we already handled the cemetery plots?
I think, yes.
So, Mr. Chair, can we deal with RV1 and then I'll amend the motion and we can proceed?
After we get through the first one here, yes. Yep. There's a motion to approve as presented from Ethan and seconded by Cindy. Any further discussion? And just to clarify one more time, I will read them all if you want me to. If not, we'll vote it as a whole. All in favor of voting as a whole? David?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye for me. 5-0. Thank you. Let's do the standalone one.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we amend Article RV1 and revise the figure to $1,046,475.
Mr. Chair, could I?
Go ahead.
I know it's out of order, but could I make a suggestion? To have it read, to see if the voters of the town of Rangeley will vote to appropriate funds from non-property tax revenues for the approved articles in EX1 through DN22, which includes $250,000 from unassigned fund balance and the remainder to be raised by property taxation.
Cindy, your call.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. If the town manager wishes for that change to be made, then I would make the motion to amend as recommended.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? We'll start with you, Shelley.
No.
Cindy, any other discussion?
All set, Steve.
Ethan?
All set.
Dave?
All set.
All those in favor? David?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. Me. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you all. That takes care of all of them under the warrants, correct, Joe? Okay.
Public hearing.
Move on to scheduling final public hearing on May 25th, 2021 is the last possible date. So if you feel like we're going to need some more time, we got to schedule a little bit sooner. What's your thought? Joe?
Mr. Chairman, this is the final public hearing where no changes can be made after this. It is purely a presentation from the select board and the administration to the voters of the town. I think the 25th is a reasonable date for that.
Okay. Need a motion, or just say we're going to do the 25th. We don't need a motion on that. That's a date. Are you good with the date, Cindy?
Yep.
I won't be able, I will probably be later. I won't make it at all. I have an out of town appointment in Freeport. So, but you don't need me.
Not true.
You could do the 24th, Mr. Chair, if you wanted.
Cindy, would the 24th work better for you?
I am available the 24th if it works for others.
Shelley, how's that work for you?
That'll be fine.
Ethan?
Yeah, I don't see any conflicts.
David?
All set.
24th then. Who says we don't aim to please? May 24th, 2021. I'm assuming it's at 6 p.m.
I think that would work, Mr. Chairman. Yep.
and the public will still be Zooming at that time until otherwise notified. Okay, thank you all. I need a motion to approve the April 5th, 2021 public hearing, presentation and warrant notes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion, changes, comments? David, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
5-0. Regular meeting, April 5th. Need a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the Rangeley Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes for April 5th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussions, changes, comments? Clerical errors? Cindy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Okay. Folks, remember, I can't see any of the public. Next up is public to speak. Is there anything under the public to speak? Thanks, everyone. You have in your packet board meeting, boards and committees from the planning board, March 10th and March 24th regular meetings. A lot on their plate. Any comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Liquor license for the Red Onion. Need a motion.
Make a motion.
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the Red Onion Restaurant, Inc. Application for liquor license.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. All the dots and I's across, all the I's are dotted, T's across. Any questions, comments?
I just have one question on the first page where it says expected start date. There's nothing in that field. It's just curious.
If I may, Steve, if I may,
Go ahead.
the expected start date is for a new establishment, Ethan, and this is a renewal of an existing.
Okay. No, and I knew there was a good answer to it that I should have known, but I just wanted to ask it.
Thank you.
Do I need to amend the motion to reference the restaurant? Because they have two, for one for restaurant, one for retail.
This one is the liquor license. Oh, pardon me. This is retail. You're right. Tracy, it just says retail/restaurant. Do we need two motions?
You absolutely can add that verbiage. I would just be sure and note it in the minutes either way. So yeah, if you feel more comfortable saying restaurant for the first one and retail for the second, that's fine.
Yep. I started off with the liquor. That's the restaurant. Let's continue with that. Then we'll do the retail. Good point, Shelley. Thank you.
Yeah.
All in favor of the liquor license for the restaurant? David?
Aye.
Ethan? Thank you. Cindy?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. Aye for me. Now could we do a motion for the retail?
Make a motion to accept the Red Onion Restaurant, Inc.'s retail application for liquor license.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? David?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Ethan? I got a hand raised. Aye for me. 5-0. Vendor's license for high tide, low tide seafood truck. I need a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the renewal for the application for vendor's license submitted by Wayne Dubay, doing business as High Tide, Low Tide Seafood.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ethan, how do you vote? Aye. David?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Aye for me. Joe, would you like to address the ordinance committee authorize alternative energy ordinance work?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Our code enforcement officer has put together a memo outlining a request for you to consider offering direction to the ordinance committee to continue research of alternative energy ordinances and draft a document to become an ordinance for the town of Rangeley. So this came out of a review of alternative energy. A recent review of Chapter 38, as the board knows, produced many, many pages of suggested edits to Chapter 38. The ordinance committee felt that this really should be a separate freestanding ordinance that relates to alternative energy. And in talking with Bailey, I said it probably is a good idea to speak with the select board about this before we go too much further down the path, just to be sure that this is something that the board is interested in pursuing. So that's how it's ended up at your table tonight, Mr. Chairman, for the consideration of the board to create or have the ordinance committee create a draft alternative energy ordinance.
Any questions from the board? I think it's a good idea, obviously, but start off with you, Shelley.
No, I think that's fine.
Cindy?
Yeah, no, if the town manager feels that it's appropriate, then I'd support that.
Ethan? Ethan, you're muted.
Sorry, I had a telephone call come through. I didn't want to bother you guys with that. I support the ordinance.
Thank you. David?
I support looking at it. I haven't seen it, but I support working on it and looking at it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We'll be looking forward to seeing more of that in the future. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Steve, from the public?
Absolutely. Who's speaking?
Chris Farmer.
Yes, Chris, go ahead.
So are all the other ordinances done? Or are all cleaned up? Or where is this alternative energy on the list? Because I mean, there was some other major ordinance work that needed to be done. Is that all completed already? I would think we'd want to get that done before we dive into this particular ordinance.
Okay.
Or is
Let
this,
me ask
or is this, okay.
Let me, Chairman of the Planning Board. Rebecca, that's you.
Sorry. So we did extensive work on Chapter 38. We've been doing it for over a year. That has been postponed to be voted on until a later date. But Chapter 38 is all we work. We did have stuff in Chapter 38 for alternative energy. And when the ordinance committee came back, said they want to make it their own, make it its own separate ordinance, planning board was in agreement if they actually created an ordinance.
So who is doing this work? Is this all being done by the attorney at several $100s an hour, or is this being done by the ordinance review committee, looking at other municipal ordinances and then working on a proposed ordinance?
Joe, would you like to chime in on that one, please?
Sure, it'll be primarily the ordinance committee working on it.
Okay, so my original question is, so as Rebecca said, there was expensive. We spent quite a bit on ordinances, and those are done, but we're waiting. We're not doing them at this town meeting. We're going to do them at a later date. Is that my understanding?
That is correct. Yep.
And all the ordinances have been scrubbed against the current comprehensive plan and made sure that those tie in exactly. So there's no conflicts between the ordinances and the comprehensive plan. I assume that's where the extra money was spent.
So, Mr. Chairman, to answer the question, all of the every ordinance in the Code of Ordinances has not recently been updated to match the comprehensive plan. That has not happened. That is something that I believe should happen in the town of Rangeley. It's one of the things that I think the Comprehensive Review Committee, when they get active, I think they could make some suggestions with that process. But for right now, I see that the Ordinance Committee and the Planning Board have both recognized alternative energy as something that is important to begin working on. As we all know, Mr. Chairman, the ordinance generation process and creation process is time consuming, takes a lot of effort, and it is, like so many things, possible to have that running in parallel with other work. They may work on other ordinances simultaneously too. So.
But Mike, I guess if I could clarify my question, Mr. Town Manager, I appreciate your response, is that the work that has been done, this expensive work that's been done on 38 over the past year, was it done under the filter of the current comprehensive plan? Yes or no?
I can speak.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could defer to the Planning Board Chair on that.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
I said extensive work, not expensive work, but we have spent some money.
Okay.
Chapter 38 actually has gone through APCOG. APCOG has worked with us. Like the night sky, we looked at what is in, we looked at everything. So yes, for chapter 38, all of that has been looked at.
So the comprehensive plan was laid out, it was measured against these ordinances before they were put in draft form, or does that still need additional review? This extensive work. Sorry, I heard expensive. My hearing's starting to go.
For chapter 38, we've worked with town's attorney, ABCOG, with an agency that does night sky. We've worked with it along the way. Our town's attorney did a final review for chapter 38.
Okay, did our town's attorney give us a, I'm not trying to third degree you here, Rebecca, I'm just trying to get clarification, that's all. So did the town's attorney write a letter that said, yes, I've reviewed the ordinance and it complies with what, it coincides with what we have in the comprehensive plan? As you know, the comprehensive plan is the backbone, the skeleton of which we're supposed to work everything from. And the ordinances are the organs, the flesh, and those other pieces. And if there's a disconnect between the two, then that leads us into potential litigation and some of these other issues. So I think it's really important, which it sounds like you've taken the proper steps to have the town attorney review it. But what's important to me is that there's a signature on that that says that that's all set. So if we have a problem down the road, no offense to our law firm, but we have somebody to point to and say, we relied on your information on that pipe. Now we have an issue. We expect you to help us out and defend it at a reasonable, if not discounted cost. I don't know if you know where I'm going there.
I do. The planning board has not been presented with that letter because, I mean, we should see it, but when it was voting on chapter 38 was postponed, we just never received that letter from Bailey. She might have it, I'm not sure.
It would be great to have that for the next step, whether we deal with this on the new committee and that type of thing. It would be great to have somebody stating that to a fact that they've reviewed that piece in there. So we kind of have, I don't know, quote unquote, some sure footing on 38 that we're already there, or if we need to, as the new group, go back and scrub that some more. I don't want to revisit areas that have already been extensively covered by all the work that the planning board has done in the ordinance review. So I think it's really important that we can get some clarification on that. And maybe Bailey already has a letter that sums that up, but it would be good to have that in some of the initial packet of information that's given to this new committee that's going to be working on that stuff.
Thank you, Chris. Joe has notes on that. We'll get some clarification for the next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
Mark Beauregard, I just wanted to ask Chris Farmer if he's reviewed the proposed changes to Chapter 38 that the planning board presented at their public hearing. If he hasn't, if he did, you know, it would give him a lot more insight into how this could get reviewed by other bodies.
Thank you. Chris, you want to respond to that?
I have not seen any of those materials yet. I don't believe I've been emailed them. If I have, I apologize. They may be in the pile of unread emails. But I don't think I've seen that, and I think it was premature. I think that that's a good place for us to kick off with this new committee, is to review the work that's been done in the past 12 to 24 months. And I'm just trying to give some thoughts as to how that information can be prepared for us so that we can walk in on short footing. That's all.
Good discussion.
That's a good idea, Chris.
Good idea and good discussion. And let's keep this dialogue going at the next meeting.
Sounds good.
You good with that, Mr. Beauregard?
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, and Chris, thank you for your input, and as you as well, Mark. Next up is quit claim deed. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the municipal quitclaim deed from the inhabitants of the municipality of Rangeley to John Headland to release lien certificates recorded at book 4101, page 345, and at book 4200, page 228.
Need a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none. Kelly, how do you vote?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Ethan? He raised his hand. Aye. David?
Aye.
I vote aye for me. You have in front of you a contract for Atlas. What's the name here? Atlas Pyro Vision. Joe, there's some explanation before I accept the motion. Joe, would you fill in some of the blanks here?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Originally, the select board had asked to have the, excuse me, Park Commission look at this. They did not have a quorum last week, so it's come back to your table. Because it's due the end of this week, I would suggest that the board consider signing it. Typically, it's the fire chief, but you can authorize either one of us to sign it. We'll be happy to do it for you. This is for the July 3rd fireworks. A display date of July 3rd, a postponement date of July 5th, time of display 9:30 p.m. at Town Cove Park, per usual. Total contract amount is $8,000. That's the document. As a sidebar, I did have Rebecca and I met with an anonymous donor last week that is interested in making a financial match or contribution directly to the company this year in the interest of improving the show. He recognizes this COVID has been a difficult time for everybody. He wants to make a cash donation directly to the company on the behalf of Town of Rangeley. He has also offered that in future years, he will make a match. So if the Town of Rangeley goes to 10,000, for instance, he will match, Rebecca, I think it was $6,000 he would match if the town.
Yeah. 10,000, he would match 6,000, but he actually looked at 12,000 matching 8,000.
So I just wanted to share that with the board. He's not looking for any notoriety or anything like that, but he'd like to contribute in that way. So just wanted to share that with you.
So a question I have, thinking about this, and I apologize all, I've had a few minutes to think about this. Is it being left up to the Town of Rangeley, and I'm assuming Keith does this work, to determine what the remainder of funds brings us? Or is that coming back to the board when the contract is written?
So there'll be no remainder. She's going to get in touch directly with Mr. Chairman, directly with the company. We're going to put them in touch with each other. So the town won't handle any of the funds.
All right, here's my concern. thank you very much to this gracious gentleman. Our contract stipulates timeframes, stipulates liability, stipulates insurance policies. If the timeframe is going to be extended, all of that has to be in the contract. I understand the financial remuneration is going directly to the company, smart move. We don't have to create another fund balance to handle this, thereby relieving the finance director of more duties, which I think is good. But we do have to cover our tail ends. So as we move forward with this thing, let's recognize that. Any other questions, comments?
I had one comment, Steve.
Hang on. Cindy,
I'll
anything?
go ahead.
All right,
No,
go ahead.
I'll list.
Go ahead, Chris.
My only comment was the alternative date is a Monday versus the first date is a Saturday. If we may want to look at doing it the alternative Friday or the next Saturday, just because it seems like a Monday night is, unless we think that that's going to still be legal holiday. I just think that Mondays people may have off, but you know, a lot of we do this for is for the, on the tourism standpoint, that there aren't gonna be many people kicking around on Monday night if Tuesday's a work day. That's all. Don't know what your thoughts are on that, but just something to think about is maybe in the past, we've had to do a win date. I remember we did like the 3rd and then we did it the 10th or the 11th, so that it put it like the next Friday or Saturday night. A few years ago, I suggested that to Town Manager Pellerin, because I felt that that gave us an opportunity for the most amount of people that are larger part of our tax base is second homeowners. That would give them an opportunity to be there on the weekend to enjoy it. And does bring people in the town to eat and those type of things. So just thinking it might make more sense to have it the following weekend rather than the Monday night. That's all. And by state law, you have to pick a date. You can't change it. So this is the time to discuss it.
Well, thank you for telling me that. That one I knew, but see, I was worried about the liability and I expected the lawyer to chime in on that. And he's worried about the date. That was interesting. Thank you, Chris. 2 points on the table. Back to the contract part. Any questions about that? Do you feel strongly as I do about that?
I think on the
All right.
contract part, I think you can put in there the time up to 9:30 or up to whatever, so that way you're protected if it's a longer show. That's all.
I'm gonna mute here. Okay. What's your thoughts, everyone? Let's
So-
start with date. What dates do you recommend, everyone? Board of Selectmen. Start with you, Cindy.
I think the 4th of July week is a common vacation week. Monday being the 5th. You know, I could really go either way. I mean, I'd support, you know, the majority decision of the board. If they wanted to bump it to Saturday, a Saturday evening show, I'm fine with that. Also fine with keeping it on Monday night. If it is a state holiday, then, you know, we won't be meeting. It won't conflict with a board meeting as well.
Oh, wait a minute. We're in 2021, correct?
Mhm.
All right, so July 3rd is Sunday night and Saturday night, and July 4th is Sunday night.
Yeah, this contract says July 5th is the rain date.
Right, postpone date.
I'm guessing they're busy someplace on the 4th.
No, you're probably right.
So that puts it on a Tuesday night, the 5th.
On a
Really?
Tuesday night, Chris, I can't get my calendar to.
I have
Cooperate.
Tuesday being the 6th.
Correct.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I read it wrong. Monday night, the 5th, what I said. Yeah, apologize.
Yeah, that is, originally that is what you said, Chris, was Monday, the 5th.
Yeah, yeah. It is.
And that was my concern, is that people they might have that day off because Sunday's a legal holiday. We all know people travel to be back for work, so we'll just have the people that are here that week. But I mean, a lot of people, that'll be a work night, getting ready to work the next day.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. So the
Well,
10th would
in
be a
res-
Saturday.
In response to Chris, I mean, a lot of July 3rds are a work night, and a lot of rain dates end up, on a work night. I'm not saying I disagree, but I mean, we just happen to be lucky this year that the 3rd falls the day that it falls, but it can show up any day of the week.
yeah, but everyone has legally, they have the 4th off the next day unless they work in an industry that doesn't have that. So my point is that everyone that doesn't work in an industry that has Tuesdays off are going to be working Tuesdays. Normally, if it was the 3rd, people always had the 4th off. We always did the 3rd in Rangeley because everybody else did the 4th, and it was a part of the reason is so people came up from Farmington and away to enjoy them. And so it was a big draw for the town. When I was a kid, the people be parked all the way to the IGA to come for this thing. So just a thought.
So the issue is the postponement date. Go ahead, David.
If you don't make it on the 3rd, I would suggest the next Saturday or whenever Saturday came.
The next Saturday is the 10th.
That's what I would recommend, but if it works.
I would also recommend the 10th, especially if someone is going to match to make it an even bigger show, to have more people being able to come up for it.
That almost sounded like a motion and a second, Mr. Chair.
I'm good with it. Make it a motion.
I make a motion, we have the fireworks. We can't have them on the 3rd, have them on the 10th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Primary date is the 3rd. Secondary date, rain, wind, monsoon, the 10th. Cindy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And I agree, 5-0. Thank you very much, Chris. That's a good point.
Mr.
Do we
Chairman,
need to approve the dollar amount?
What's
No,
that?
we need to
We haven't
authorize the
got to that
town
part
manager to
yet.
sign.
Shelley, what'd you say?
Do we need to approve the dollar amount and to have Joe sign on behalf of the town?
Before you do that, I just want you guys to add in, please, on your motion that we make sure that the contract times are relative to the extra in the contract so that the town is liable even though somebody else is contributing to the financial part. Time liabilities, et cetera. So yes, we do need a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Who's speaking?
Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca. I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's great to do it the next Saturday, but what if the company can't? So now we don't have a rain date if they can't.
Joe, come back to us and we'll fix it. Thank you. Anything else? You want a motion for that, Joe?
Please, Mr. Chair, if you could authorize the fire chief or myself to sign the contract. And it would be a good idea to include the total amount, which is $8,000.
Wait a minute. Is it going to be the total amount of the town's contribution or the total amount of the contract?
The total town contribution is $8,000.
Okay, so moved. I need a second. Thank you.
Second.
David, how do you vote?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
I vote. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Hello?
Yes, Mark Beauregard.
Yes, sir.
Yes, back to the ordinance committee item that you were discussing. All of your members seem to be in agreement, but would you need to vote on that to authorize the ordinance committee to continue working on the alternate engineer? My understanding is that they've started accumulating ordinances from a bunch of towns across Maine, and they're looking through them to see which parts are most applicable to Rangeley. And they thought they were authorized along with the wind tower to work on alternative energy, but and they did the wind tower ordinance, but never got to the solar. And I think they're just, Bailey's looking for some confirmation that they continue working on this.
Thank you for bringing that up. We have all of the notes. Joe took them, Tracy took them, and we will come back at the next meeting with a formulated plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Correspondence. We don't have any that has been submitted, correct, Joe?
That is correct.
Okay. Next up, Comprehensive Plan Review Implementation Committee Bylaws, second reading. Has anybody found any issues with this? Cindy, were you moving to say something?
No, all set.
You're all set? Shelley, you all set?
All set.
Ethan?
I am all set.
David?
All set.
Do you need a motion to accept the second reading?
After I finish joking, I was going to ask that. Yeah. Please.
All right,
Go
hang on
ahead.
1 second. Go back. I make a motion to accept the second reading for the Comprehensive Plan Review and Implementation Committee Bylaws.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Shelley.
No, I was waving to my kid. He just came in.
Okay. All in favor? Cindy?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
I vote aye for me. RFPs for contract services, you all received in your packet. Joe, why don't you start off with this, because there's some information there that's pretty good. Might want to clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have included three current agreements with professional services consultants. The first is human resource, the second is economic development and assessing. The first two items expire on June 30 of this year. The assessing expires later in the summer. I think it's September. I'm looking for your feedback on releasing RFPs for these consultants. I think it's a good idea to do it. But I just want to make sure that that's something you're interested in before we put the effort in it here at the office.
Thoughts and wants and dreams on RFPs, starting with contract for services. Hang on, I just covered up my human resource consultant, economic development and assessing. David, I just see the top of your head. Was that a hand or your head? There you go.
There you are.
All right, did you have a question, sir?
No,
Okay, we'll move next to Cindy.
Yeah, I think it's common for us to do this. I mean, every 3 years, we tend to put it out there. I mean, Daryl, we stumbled across, or I think we had actually, created a position for an economic developer as a result of the comprehensive plan. And just really couldn't get a response to the ad. And I think, we try to save the taxpayers money when we can, and to go the consultant route certainly saves on, the cost of benefits, et cetera. So I'm all for putting these out.
Shelley, thank you, Cindy.
I agree.
Ethan,
Yeah, I agree. And I think at some point, we should probably look into putting an RFP out for legal services too. We've been with the same firm for a long, long time, and it's something to at least talk about.
All right. David?
I agree with Ethan on everything.
Okay. Joe, do you need a motion to put an RFP out?
Please, Mr. Chair, if you would.
So
You want them individual, Joe, or?
Yeah, if you could do them individually, that would be good. The assessing would be the third in terms of scheduling. So the other two would need to go out the door in the next few weeks or so, the first two.
Joe, hang on. Joe, relative to Ethan's comment and David's concurrence, when would we be going out for an RFP for legal services?
That's a good question.
All right, so let's find out for the RFP for legal services for the next meeting, so we have some data to look at and you have an opportunity to schedule that. Let's entertain a motion, please, for human resources consultant.
I'll make a motion that the town of Rangeley post an RFP for human resources services. Joe, do you want like for a 3-year contract, or do you want that indicated as to, we would need.
I think we could do 1 year with the possibility of 1-year extensions based on,
Okay.
All right. Satisfaction of the board. I think 1 year is fine with automatic 1 year extensions.
Okay. Yep. So I will include that for a 1-year contract with an opportunity for a 1-year extension.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Shelley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Thank you. David, could you do me a favor? Yeah, pull that camera down. Perfect.
There you go.
Your head kind of shining. That was- I'm just with you. Next up, economic development.
Make a motion that the town of Rangeley post an RFP for economic development consulting services for a contract period of 1 year with the possibility of a 1-year extension.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? David, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye for me, 5-0. Assessing.
Mr. Chairman, this assessing would be better served, I think, for a 3-year term.
All right, I'll make a motion that the town of Rangeley posts an RFP for assessing services for a period of 3 years.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Joe, what's your reasoning on 3 years with this? Joe?
Good question, Mr. Chair. With assessing, the biggest reason is it's common to have the 3-year structure. They're going to have to come up and get familiar with the tax maps, the parcels. And I think there's a little more setup involved with the assessing compared to the other ones.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I think if the prices are close, I think it'd be better to stay with the same one if it's possible. But it'd have to be close in price, I guess. They're familiar with the area, I guess. I don't know who they are. It makes sense, but I don't know.
Those make sense. Any other? Kelly, how do you vote?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
5-0 for me. Next up is department. You got all of that in your packet. Any questions or anything jump out at you with those? Okay. April 24th is the 5th annual trash pickup day. Again, kudos to our Assistant Town Manager Tracy Pitt Lavoy. Appreciate all the hard work, and I'm sure it'll be a very successful day. It's been brought to Joe's attention that some of these boards and committees would like to meet in person to help with quorums and keep the public zooming for safety. Pardon me, folks, I'm sorry, choking here. How do you all feel about that?
Good idea to me.
Okay,
You do both, right? You're right. You're doing kind of both at the same time.
Yeah, any committee or board member would have the option to zoom in as well if, you know, their circumstance. Is that right? I guess I don't want to assume.
that's my assumption. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Is that correct, Joe?
That's what I was proposing, Mr. Chairman, was to have the members of committees or boards only have the opportunity to come into the room. I don't think we're ready to have the public in the building yet. And the reason I brought this up was I have had some feedback from a couple of committees, boards, commissions, that some folks are really still not comfortable with using the Zoom technology. And they, I think, are in some cases avoiding the meetings because of it. And we're running into quorum issues. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have brought it up, but I think it's important enough to think about. And just as a reminder, the select board had a while back, I don't know the date exactly, had directed all committees to be remote only. So it would take an action of the board to amend that.
Shelley, comment?
No, I agree.
Cindy?
I agree as well.
Ethan, you said you were all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay, we need a motion to allow boards and committees in the town of Rangeley to be able to hold meetings within the town office, I'm assuming. Committee members and board members still can Zoom in, but the public will be relegated to Zooming.
Make a
So
motion to that.
moved.
Oh, yeah. Don't move, yeah. Perfect.
You want me to make that a
Second.
motion?
I
Yeah.
just did.
She
That's
said
what-
it's so moved.
That's my, thank you. I need a second.
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 All around the board, okay. Steve and Ethan. Any further discussion? David, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ethan,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye for me. You're still smiling, Shelley. That's good. Cool. Reminder, yep, you all saw that reminder for the personnel file for the fire chief needs to be completed. Shelley, thank you for the work that you've done with the town manager stuff, and we'll get all this taken care of for the next meeting.
Cindy and Ethan, you got yours, right? Because I screwed up on the email address.
Yeah.
Did you get, okay, good.
Okay, Cindy?
I need to, Tracy, if you could email me a blank evaluation form. I've chucked mine or it's in a pile, but you know, I've got my notes. I just don't have the form to complete for Chief Bacon.
Sure, I'll do it right now.
Thank you so much. I'll get that to you tomorrow, Shelley.
Okay,
Tracy.
sounds great.
Include everybody on that, so in case they can't find theirs, that way it'll be done. Yes, David?
I think I sent mine in already, didn't I?
No, that was the town managers.
Okay. Oh, I guess better do the other one then.
Yep. Yep. Again, thank you, Shelley. Joe, you want to talk about MMA workers' compensation and safety incentive program, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a program that MMA puts on for folks that are involved in the workers' comp pool. We qualify to participate. Essentially, they give us credit, financial credit for implementing the safety programs that were required by law to implement. We are working on those here. We're dusting them off. And I figured it would make sense for us to get into this program. They'll give us a little bit of help along the way. And then annually, if we continue to comply, they will give us a discount on our workers' comp insurance. So the first step in this is for me administratively to fill in a form saying we're interested. And then the next step is a formal step where the select board would vote to sign a resolve. There's a form that's a resolve form that you would be basically pledging that the town would participate in this. So I just want to let you know that I intend to send in that form. And then once that's done, I'll bring to you the information for the resolve, which is something you'll have to make a motion on.
Questions for Joe, please.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Let me get through the board first, Chris. Stand by. David, any questions?
All set.
Then
Nope, all set.
Cindy,
I'm good.
Shelley?
How's that?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Farmer.
Workman's comp who's our current workman's comp provider?
Maine Municipal Association, Mr. Chair. The question was, who is our current workers' comp provider? It's through Maine Municipal.
Okay, and do we get a dividend each year on that, like they do with Mimic, or is that done a different way?
I'll have to send his question into Joe.
Yeah, I didn't quite gather it.
I didn't get it.
I'm sorry, well, with Mimic, for instance, Mimic's a private entity that a lot of companies participate in. And what happens is that there's a lower amount of workman's
You're
comp.
breaking up, Chris.
Really?
Not a word, Chris, not a word.
I'm sorry, Mr. Farmer. Chris, we're not getting, you're broken. Are you on Walden's Flats coming north? Chris?
I believe he's talking about Mimic, private company.
Yeah.
If you have a good record, they give you a rebate. I'm guessing what he's talking about.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes,
You said yes, you can?
yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's my earpieces that were the problem. So what I'm asking is with Mimic as a private corporation, the next year, if it does well, you get back a dividend. And I just didn't know if the Maine Municipal worked under a similar structure, because when you look at other companies to do that with, you're going to want to look at that from the cost benefit analysis, because in the past, when I've been in the business sector, the company had offers often to switch to different pieces, but once you figured in the dividend that was paid each year, the net cost wasn't as beneficial.
Go ahead, Joe.
So MMA workers' comp does do dividends. They'll do that. And this is in addition to that. This is an incentive program for implementing the safety programs that are essentially required by Maine Department of Labor. So we're supposed to do them anyway. This is just an incentive to make sure that we're doing them.
So it isn't a new company, it's more of a supplement.
Yeah, it's the same company we've used for quite a period of time. It's Maine Municipal Workers' Comp Pool.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Chair. It's a 10%, up to 10% contribution credit.
You said 10%?
Up to 10%, correct.
Any other questions for the town manager regarding MMA?
Mr. Chair, I had one other item under town manager report, if I could. It's not on your list, but I just wanted to remind folks that the disbursement warrants are still being signed manually, but all other documents will be done by electronically by DocuSign. Just a housekeeping issue. So the
So get our
disbursement,
butts in there and sign the
Yeah.
warrants.
AP and payroll are available out front for manual signatures, and all other documents we will email to you for DocuSign. And that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate that, folks. I'm assuming David's not going to be back for a few days, correct?
No, I'll be back tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Well, I won't be for a few more days, so if we could make sure that if you folks go in, that would make everybody's life easier. Thank you. Select Board Communications. David, do you have anything?
No?
Ethan?
No, I guess just in light of the firework discussion, I'd like to either draft or sign a letter that's drafted as a thank you to whoever this person is for the match that they're willing to put up. That's pretty big of them.
Agree with that.
We'll take care of that. Cindy, do you have anything?
Yeah, a couple of things. So just to circle back on the RFPs that we've voted on to put out, I would just like, just a little explanation sent off to, I mean, assessing is used to it. It's every 3 years and whatnot, but just to let, the human resources consultant and economic development consultant know that this is just something we normally do as our town processes. So that if we do end up continuing with them, there's just an explanation. And I didn't know if the banking RFP was due to be revisited again or not. So just ask for that to be looked at as well. And secondly, so the Chapter 38, all the work that went into that, I would love it if Bailey could just pick a section to discuss at future selectmen's meetings. So it's not just one exhaustive, I mean, this is just my thought. There's quite a number of changes, and I would just love to hear from Bailey and have her, discuss one section per meeting if that is appropriate.
I think that's a great idea, Cindy. Break it down into parcels so it's easier to digest. I think that's a smart move.
That's all I
Anything-
have.
Right, Shelley?
So I just had something to add where the docks at the park will be in this week, according to Joe.
That's what he
I didn't know
stated.
how popular they were. They're popular. Everyone's asking.
Yep. I do have something to bring up, and I want you all to fix it for me because I can't. How do we get more water in Moose Lick? All right, that's it.
Ain't looking good.
I think in your deed it said is it's subject to flowage rights.
Are you sure? Is that what it says?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that you have, yeah.
Okay, that's all we have for Select Board Communications. That we all set? We have an executive session. Next up, under personnel. Joe, what's the title? What does it say?
Personnel matters, Mr. Chairman, is 1 MRSA subsection 405-6A.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 405-6A for personnel matters.
Second.
All those in favor? Ethan?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Shelley? Whoa.
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Aye from me. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in tonight.
You're
Well-
recording. You're recording.
We're recording. No action will be taken on the executive session. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, David. I'll enjoy your time, and I'll see you when I come home.
Aye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. Time of adjournment.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Night, Joe.
Right.
Good night, everybody. Time of adjournment was 8:16 PM.